Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to be talking about Howl's Moving Castle, and I'm going to be comparing the book to the film. Now I have very strong opinions about both of these, and yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. First off, I'm going to say I read the book first. I mentioned in a couple other videos that this is one of my favourite childhood books ever. I reread it all the time. I love the story, I love everything about it, so it's very close to my heart. And I knew there was a film out there, but I had never actually watched it until very recently. I picked it up from HMV and thought I would give it a go. I had very high hopes for this film, and unfortunately I was bitterly disappointed. Now, first off, before I get into this comparison and review, this is going to sound like I'm bashing the film quite a lot. So before I get started, I'm just going to say a couple points on the film, because a few of you who watch this video, you may have seen the film and not read the book and you love the film. So by no means is this a bad film. It's actually very pretty, it's very well done, it's a lovely looking anime. I really like the animation on this. I feel like if you hadn't read the book, you know absolutely nothing about Howl's Moving Castle, nothing about the story, and you just seen this, picked up, thought it looked good and wanted to watch it, I feel like you would enjoy this. Like I said, it's very well done, it's very imaginative, it has bits of the book, but I'm going to get into that in a minute. So yeah, if you know nothing to do with the book and you just wanted to pick this up as you think it sounded good as a nice anime film, it is. It's nicely done and the story is very imaginative, and you know the characters are likeable and this and that. However, if you have read the book and you wanted to see an adaptation of this book and go and pick up this, like me, I feel like you're going to be disappointed, and I'm going to explain why. So Howl's Moving Castle, it centres around this woman here called Sophie, and she is a young woman and she works in a hat shop. And unbeknown to her, she kind of has a little bit of power within her. She's a very stern, a very stubborn person. You know, she knows her own mind. She just kind of gets on with things. And you know, she works away in this hat shop and she kind of mutters to herself. She's a bit of a loner. You know, which she's kind of happy with. She just gets on with her work and kind of accepts her life for what it is. Until one day when a witch, the Witch of the Waste, unbeknown to her, she doesn't know it's the witch when she enters the shop, comes into her shop and puts a curse on her, which turns her into an old woman. She then goes along in the story, goes along her adventure, and she ends up teaming up with a wizard called Howl. And yeah, they just go on this pretty epic adventure together. Now, there may be slight spoilers in this, by the way. If you haven't seen the film and you want to see the film, or you haven't read the book and you want to, then I'd say maybe not watch this video any further, because there will be, not major, but like little spoilers in this review, because I can't really review them and compare them without giving spoilers. So that's just your fair warning. But yeah, so that's the gist of the story. That's pretty much what happens. Now, they start off the same. You know, it's Sophie, she's working in a hat shop. And I will say, for one thing with films, like, you're not going to get all the detail. Like at some points, it's, you know, the book is narrated by Sophie, so you hear like kind of what she's thinking and everything. And obviously you can't really put that, well, I guess you could do kind of voiceover thing in the film, but it's hard to do that. It's hard to get across personalities, and Sophie has a very strong personality, which doesn't come across in the film. You get little bits of it here and there, but not to the extent that it is in the book, which I find a shame. They do get right how she looks, actually. I did like that, how Sophie appears in the film is how you imagine her in the books. But yeah, they start off the same. Sophie's in a hat shop, and obviously in the book you get a lot more detail about her family life and you know, why she does the things she does and stuff like that, about her sisters. Her sisters are quite prominent in the book, and they're not really at all in the film, which I find a shame. Also her stepmother as well, you don't really hear a lot about her, and she pops up in the film but not as much as she does in the book. So yeah, the major differences are between the book and the film is, towards the beginning of the film I was like, okay, they've changed a few things, but this is okay, it's kind of still going along the story. In the middle I was like, okay, and then the ending is completely different, and they make Howl completely different in the book. In the book, he is like a spoilt brat, he's a spoilt child, but there's also something very innocent about him, and he's actually, everybody thinks he's this horrible, evil person in the book, but in reality, he does have some kindness to him, and he is kind of trying his best, and you kind of don't like him, but you do like him in this book. He's a very funny character. He is just like a spoiled little child, and like I said, everyone's kind of afraid of him. But Sophie, she gets bewitched, and she kind of goes along this journey, and she somehow ends up at his castle. She doesn't really intend to, but she just ends up there, and she kind of gets let into the castle. She makes friends with the fire demon, which is in the who lives in Howl's house, and they have a connection together. Which, by the way, like the way they describe Calcifer in this is nothing how he appears in this. Like, as I said, the anime is very beautiful in this film. It's really nice to watch, but the way they do Calcifer is like really horrible, and his voice is horrible in this as well. I really didn't like the way they did that. You know, as I said, there's a different cover to this book. The original, or one of the original covers, where you kind of see Calcifer as this big, kind of creepy looking blue and green demon, and in this he's just like a fire with like weird googly eyes. It's very strange. I don't like the way how they do it in this. Yeah, she kind of makes a deal with him that she's going to try and help him out. So she ends up living with Cal, and as I said, they go on this adventure. But yeah, there's too many things they change. There's too many things they change. Just silly things, like characters they change. They change the bad guy. The bad guy in this book is the Witch of the Waste, and she's always the bad guy throughout the book. Whereas in the film, they make her into this kind of, she's almost a joke. Like, they've just changed way too much stuff. It's kind of hard to explain because I just think of so many things at once. But yeah, first off, they change. There's a scarecrow that pops up within the story, and Sophie first, in the book, when Sophie first meets the scarecrow, she kind of helps him out, and then he kind of starts following her everywhere, and he really scares Sophie, like really scares Sophie in the books. And in the film, she becomes friends with him right from the get-go, and he travels along with them in this house. The house also looks completely different. In the book, I kind of imagined it as this big spooky castle, like very dark, surrounded by mist. And in this, it's kind of like a steampunky, almost like a frog kind of a thing that walks on legs. And again, that's not how it is in the book. But I can see why they did that, because it goes well in anime. I wasn't really that fussed about how the house looked, because when they did the inside of the house, it does look how you imagine it. But yeah, they changed the bad guy, and that's a massive no-no for me. It just kind of completely ruined it. Like I said, they made the Witch of the Waste into a joke in this, which she isn't. Also, the Solomon, who is another wizard, is a female in this. It's a man in the book. It's another wizard that the king hires to help him. Also, the prince and the other wizard are quite important to the story in the book, and in this it just doesn't really go, and they do change it massively. Like, the ending changed massively, and I kind of knew it was going to be different from the get-go, because when Sophie first meets Howl market chipping, when she's going to see her sister, in the book she doesn't know it's Howl. He just kind of approaches her, and she kind of shuns him off, you know, fobs him off, and then just goes about her business. In this, they pretty much fall in love straight away, which annoys me, because that's not how it happens in the book. And it's just, I feel a lot of frustration towards this. Again, if you know nothing about the book, then you would like this, but if you know the book and love the book, then you're going to absolutely hate this, like me. Unless you can see past that. I tried to see past it, but there's just too many differences. The way Howl's character is, like I said, in this they kind of make him into, you know, this very quiet, mysterious, like calm character, apart from one bit where he has a tantrum and green goo comes off him. That is the same in the book. But other than that, he comes across as quite a well, he's a charmer in the book, but Sophie kind of sees through it, whereas in this, Sophie falls in love with him too quickly and too easily, and the way they meet in market chipping is completely different. Like I said, in the book she kind of shuns him off, she doesn't know it's Howl. In the film somehow she knows it's him, and they start walking on the air together through market chipping, and it's just a little bit ridiculous. I just really didn't like that. I don't like the way they do him. Like I said, there's a few, they've picked elements out of the book that are the same, but other than that it's pretty much a completely different storyline, and they do something with Howl in the story which makes absolutely, completely, is just nothing to do with the book. I'm going to say it's kind of a spoiler, but they do show it pretty early on in the film, that basically there's something wrong with Howl, and he's kind of like this monster, so he's like this part bird thing, and towards the end of the book he like grows massive feathers and he turns into this big monster thing, which again, completely nothing to do with the book. That doesn't happen in the book. It is just like they picked up elements, but it's not the same story. I would recommend, if you've seen this film and you enjoy it, then do go read the book, because you'll see what I mean about the different comparisons and stuff, how the story is so different. They've basically just picked up little elements. You know, at the beginning of the story it says a novel by Diana Wynne Jones, and really this isn't the novel by Diana Wynne Jones. It's a few elements they've picked up. They have Howl, they have Sophie in the house, kind of. They have all the characters, Calcifer and his apprentice. So they're all the same, but then the bad guys, they've mixed it up and they've completely changed the whole essence of the book and the whole storyline. So yeah, unfortunately I was disappointed by this. By the ending I was so frustrated, I was actually skipping little bits, because when it came to Howl turning into this big bird thing, I was just like, what? And when they changed the characters and the Witch of the Waste became this pathetic little lump, I was like, oh, really? Yeah, they changed too much, and I was quite disappointed. Again though, if I'd seen this without reading the book, I probably would have enjoyed this. I may try and rewatch this, and I don't know, it's just because I love the book so much and they just changed too much. Like in some books you can kind of forgive, like in the Harry Potter films they do change certain little things, they miss stuff out, but essentially it's still the Harry Potter things, so you can kind of get away with it. Same with the Lord of the Rings and those kind of books, they're still true to the story, but this just really isn't. They just changed way too much. So unfortunately that's my review. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I think I've done a separate review on the book, and the book is fantastic. So yeah, I'd say if you've seen the film, then read the book. But if you've read the book and love it as much as I do, then you're probably not going to like the film, unfortunately. So yeah, they're both good in their own rights. For me, the story's just, the book's way better. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I hope I didn't ramble too much. And if you have different feelings for me, then please leave it in the comments down below. I tried to give the film a fair viewing, but like I said, it's just they've changed way too much. It wasn't even the same story to me in the end. I was so disappointed how much the characters had changed and the storyline. So yeah, that's my review. That's pretty much all I have to say, and thank you for watching. Until next time, bye guys.